I'm Dan Smolin. I built a successful executive career in marketing and communications before becoming a top headhunter and founding my own executive search firm. Now get this, every day, mainstream media runs stories in which old school bosses and thought leaders frame your work and workplace issues in ways that are often divisive and unmeaningful. And that's just crazy. The time has come for you to answer the question, what's your work fit, so that your work and career fit who you are, how you want to live, and what you want your lasting contributions to be. What's your work fit? It answers your questions and tackles the issues that keep you up at night about advancing your career in this time of workplace revolution. So let's get started. Hey, good day, everyone. Dan Smolin from What's Your Work Fit. Thank you for joining us today. You know, we could not do this show without you. This community is built on every one of you and your participation as viewers, as listeners, as people who submit me questions and topics. That's what makes this a great experience. We're not going out there and spending thousands of dollars to build a huge community. Our community is moderately sized, but unbelievably engaged. And again, we could not have this experience, this wonderful experience, without you. I want to encourage all of you, if you haven't done so already, engage with us on the platform of your choice. Currently, we're on LinkedIn Live and on YouTube at the What's Your Work Fit channel. You can follow those buttons to engage with us accordingly. Next up, we are now on Substack, and you can subscribe to us on at dansmolin.substack.com. What's really great about this platform and about this experience is that it pulls all of our assets together in one place. You can follow live and pre-recorded shows here, video clips, our audio podcast episodes. You can hit the archive and find other useful information. So that's growing, and I want to encourage you all to subscribe there. It's free currently to everyone. And one last thing, if you do enjoy the content, the experience of What's Your Work Fit, I ask that you tell 5 of your friends to subscribe to What's Your Work Fit on the platform or platforms of their choice. That's it. One other bit of housekeeping, and this one is huge. Next week at this time, our guest is going to be Atlassian's head of Team Anywhere, Annie Dean, and we three are going to ask Annie, how do we get team gathering done well? It's going to be a huge show. Annie has got a huge reach within the future of work and workplace space. Okay, that's it for morning messages. Let's get to our guest today. He is our returning guest, Ram Srinivasan. How you doing, Ram?
All good, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing well. Tell you a little bit about Ram. Ram is the global AI strategy adoption leader for JLL. And he spearheads innovative strategies and initiatives to leverage the latest generation of AI while ensuring their responsible and ethical implementation. He is also a future of work leader and the author of the book, The Conscious Machine, From Artificial to Enlightened Intelligence. I don't know about this part-time work that you're doing, Ram. You know, I think you need more on your plate, buddy.
I mean, it's been a whirlwind of information coming all of our ways, and making sense of it is for sure not a part-time gig. I can tell you that.
Well, we got a big show ahead. I want to bring in our co-host. First up, Mark Gilbreath from some unidentified space on the planet. How you doing, Mark?
I'm well. I'm up here with Katy Perry. We're doing fine.
You're up in the spaceship. So Mark is also the CEO of LiquidSpace, and he's been in the news quite a bit lately. So we're really excited about that, and maybe we can draw some of that into our discussion today. And last up, we've got Fran Saele from Mortevita. How you doing, Fran?
Great, Dan. And it's great that Mark has finally made it into orbit. We were having some challenges there just a few minutes ago.
He's in high orbit.
And you sound great, Mark. So
okay, he's in high orbit, and he paid for his subscription, so everything is great. Gentlemen, let's get right to it. Ram, we want to get to what are the latest breakthroughs in AI and agentic AI. Get us started.
So latest breakthroughs, Dan, will take us just about 3 hours. I'm happy to get to it. I mean, since we last met, there's been, like I mentioned, a whirlwind of progress. 2025 is the year of AI agents.
Right.
We are seeing agentic AI go beyond enterprise experimentation. And I'd like to differentiate experimentation from pilots. Experiments are, you're working on the side of your desk, you're testing something out, etc. Pilots are where there's enterprise money, there is opportunity to scale, understand what's working, what's not. So there is definitely piloting happening across number of enterprises. There's also powerful demonstrated ROI coming out of these AI implementations, which happy to share some of those examples. So agentic AI, kind of number one. Number two, I would say, is everything around workforce transformation. So we at JLL, through our research, we are calling it hybrid 2.0. Hybrid 1.0 was that spectrum between office and remote, and where you work, and those elements took center stage over the last 4 to 5 years. And now we're seeing this emergence of hybrid 2.0, which is the human machine spectrum. So if you now have powerful reasoning engines, and you have the ability to leverage them to execute work, knowledge work, how do you decide where you are on that spectrum? What tasks are human only? What tasks are AI or machine only? And how do you solve for that messy middle where the human and the machine need to collaborate? So that's the second piece. And then third piece is everything aligned with AI. So things like quantum robotics, each of those elements have kind of picked up as well. So happy to share more on each of those topics.
Well, let's get right to it. One thing that you said that I think really sums up the experience is you say that that using agentic AI in its current iteration is like having 1,000 PhDs in your pocket. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, we've got to address that whoever this individual is really amazingly handsome. So I'm distracted by the image on screen. But
As am I.
beyond that, but beyond that, I mean, a couple of reasons I actually produced this, right? So we have seen, each one of us has seen the plethora of Ghibli images online. And that tells us two things. Firstly, the ability to create something unique and interesting is in everyone's hand. But when everything is a copy of a copy of a copy, if I may quote Fight Club, then what is original and what is originality?
Right.
So this kind of gets diluted. So that, having said that, we now have the power of literally 1,000 PhDs in our pocket. So if you look at when we met last time, I had mentioned that AI models are approaching PhD level intelligence. And this was 4 months back, where we had Claude at that point was at 101 IQ. We had O1 and some of these other models coming up. And since then, you now have Gemini Pro 2.5 Pro and Claude 3.7 Sonnet and O3 models breaching that 120 mark, approaching 130 IQ points. 130 IQ is 98th percentile IQ. Essentially, that's Mensa level IQ.
Right.
So and they're at or above PhD level on a number of subjects. So you have the power of those AI models in your pocket on your phone right now. And the only question is, what questions are we asking those AI models, and how are we using them for betterment of work, creating more joy, equality, all of those things. At the same time, these AI models are also extremely susceptible. So, for example, simple tasks without specific prompting, and adequate context, they are able to get wrong. There's a very interesting case study, by the way. I invite everyone to look this up in the conversation, titled "Vegetative Electron Microscopy." And if you think that sounds like word salad, it is word salad. But that phrase, vegetative electron microscopy, appears in peer-reviewed scientific papers because those papers were written using AI.
It's funny.
Well, let's get to your slides here. Take us through all of what's happening right now with each of these images.
Yeah, images here are just representative, and what we are seeing. There's a lot of talk around: is AI a bubble? What's going to happen with investment dollars? Are they going down? Is there ROI? There are two ways to look at this. There is a lot of hype. Um, the way I think about it is dot-com bubble. There was a bubble for sure, and the bubble popped. However, all of us are on the internet right now. We use websites today. So whether the AI and the stock market associated with it is a bubble, I think that's secondary. Primary is how do we use this technology right now and right here. I know that I can use this technology to improve how I work and be exponential. So that's all that matters to me as an individual. Um, as an enterprise, things are different. We are looking for ROI. We are looking for return on the dollars that we spend. And what's interesting is CEOs, 9 out of 10 of them, JLL research shows that 90% of CEOs believe that the workforce will be fundamentally transformed over the next 3 to 5 years with AI. Implications to knowledge work are immense. World Economic Forum published a very interesting study. I invite everyone to read it. In it, they describe that there will be disruption, disruption, short-term pain, but by 2030, 78 million net new human jobs is what World Economic Forum projects through that. So impact to knowledge work is obvious. We all need to be AI literate. AI is how we will deliver work, but there'll be net new job creation. A couple of other aligned trends. We have seen the emergence of DeepSeek as a model out of China. There is incredible innovation behind DeepSeek, and I just give a little bit of double click here. DeepSeek R1 is DeepSeek's reasoning model. DeepSeek V3, which they released a new version thereof, 0325, released last month, is a non-reasoning model. What's the difference between a reasoning and a non-reasoning model? Reasoning models think before they respond. They take a little bit longer and potentially provide you with better quality response. So DeepSeek's R1 kind of performs at similar levels to previous generation of Claude, Gemini, and OpenAI's models. They're not yet at frontier model levels. The frontier will keep pushing, and I'm sure DeepSeek will keep approaching that frontier. Then the other piece here is around quantum. Quantum and robotics are aligned with AI, are progressing by leaps and bounds. You've had Amazon launch its quantum chip, Google launched Willow, its quantum chip, Microsoft launched Majorana, which is their quantum chip, and in fact created a whole new state of matter called topological state of matter beyond solid liquid gas to deliver quantum computing solutions. So quantum again is something that's coming very quickly. Highly recommend following Steve Suarez, one of my MIT alumni friends who's doing incredible work in this quantum computing space. Humanoid robotics is another area that's progressed substantially since we last spoke. That picture there is not AI generated. That is figures AI robot in a BMW factory assembling BMW car parts. So incredible pace of evolution within that, and I'm sure some of our listeners would have seen unitary robotics, practicing kung fu and boxing and other things. And the last thing I'd say here is this emergence of vibe coding, and vibe coding is a phenomenon where you, as an app developer or software developer, sit back, relax, and let AI do the job for you. Incredibly powerful, but at the same time, incredibly challenging. Imagine trying to write a book in French or German without knowing what the AI model is spitting out your way. This is essentially what vibe coding is. It works sometimes, it doesn't work at other times. and using it at scale, challenging, using it in MVPs and small implementations, amazing, incredible. If you know what you're doing with vibe coding, it could be incredibly exponential. So I'll pause there. Just last thing I'd say is the value equation has changed completely. CEO of a Fortune 500 company was on LinkedIn today describing how he is using AI. And he said that fundamentally, it changes for him how he thinks about others on his team.
Oh,
Are
wow.
others able to deliver better quality using AI the same way that he is? So the level up that's required from all of us becomes extremely important. So I'll pause there.
Okay. Mark is up in the spaceship, and he's about to go on the far side of the moon here, so we might lose him at some point. So, Mark, I'm going to have you go first. Take it away.
Thanks, Ram. I think you've been a guest for us 3 times, if not more. Every time you've amazed us and inspired us with regards to the forward-looking view you've accumulated around AI and what its implications are going to be. And of course, you've authored a powerful book on the topic. But thinking about JLL in particular, I mean, I've when I was first introduced to it 15, 20 years ago, it was characterized to me as the smart guys. They were the smart people, right? They were the brainiacs. So, thinking about JLL today, there's at least 1,000 PhD level real estate advisors and property managers and facility managers, a stellar assemblage of human beings who have accumulated wisdom. I'm curious what you are seeing as you look across the surface area of JLL. How much actual embrace or integration of AI augmentation are you seeing across the surface area of how JLL is delivering services to its clients? And if less than what you might want to see, where do you anticipate it's first going to make the most significant impacts? Again, overcoming sort of the prior state where the JLL PhD individual broker or service provider was proud of his or her wisdom, and that was their power. Are they going to willingly embrace AI and let it disrupt what had been a human-based source of power?
Yeah, I mean, great question. And in fact, aligned with this, Mark, there's a fantastic survey from Writer AI where they're showing that people are actually actively sabotaging AI projects. And Writer AI CEO was in the press recently saying it's like hiring the Thanksgiving turkey to cook Thanksgiving dinner. So why would somebody participate in this project? So what we have seen is clear transparency and communication around what's being implemented, why it's being implemented, getting folks involved in implementation, and then clearly showing how it will benefit them on their job. I think that's very important to do upfront. Speaking of what JLL has done over the last several years, honestly, it's not just the last year or so. It's overnight success that's taken decades, like so many have said. There's tremendous investment across the board on technology. There's tremendous investment in AI. We have, of course, built our own GPT platform, JLL GPT, which is now accessible to all our people. Our colleagues across the world are using JLL GPT to improve their turnaround time to clients. And then there are specific applications across the board within the JLL context with our clients as well. So there is already application in our JLL world. Dan Fan, I think we may have lost Mark.
Yeah, he's on the other side of the moon. Actually, folks, what happened? Mark indicated to us in private chat that his battery was running low. And so unfortunately, being virtual right now, or in a car, I should say, he ran out of juice. So that's why we got him to ask his question first. And if he can come back on, we'll bring him back in.
Just one word that I would, Mark used a fantastic word, which is wisdom. And this is, I would like to distinguish that against all the IQ intelligence talks when it comes to AI. And I said this on another discussion yesterday. It's like saying that knowing that tomato is a fruit that is intelligence. Knowing not to put it in a fruit salad, that is wisdom. And while AI might come up with some ideas and some scenarios and some options, the wisdom of selection and implementation lies with us. And so I think that if we have PhD level intelligence, it's not a competition. It simply means a magnification of human wisdom, and we should focus on that.
Fran?
Yeah, just picking up on this whole idea of the 1,000 PhDs in my pocket. I opened up my perplexity here, so I've been carrying this around. My question is, if Elon is able to get Neuralink on Bluetooth, all right, is it realistic to assume that at some point we'll be able to leverage your AI in your pocket directly into your brain? And is that really singularity as was originally conceived? And I forget the author, but
Ray Kurzweil,
or Kurzweil. Is that the kind of thing we're talking about here? And is that realistic in our planning horizon of 2, 3, 4 years?
Yeah, fascinating question. So a couple of things just for folks who may not be familiar, Fran, with the idea of singularity. So it's a borrowed term from physics, and the idea is borrowed from black hole physics specifically. So I won't go into boring details on equations, but suffice it to say that the singularity is a region where the laws of physics as we know it do not work. So we need to either invent new laws or understand what that looks like, and you can only understand it when you're there. So when Ray Kurzweil describes singularity, or the AI community describes singularity, what they're saying is that is a region of time where AI has become so progressive, is kind of out of hand and evolving so quickly that we don't know what is happening. And my perspective is it won't be a single point of time. It won't be like a given Thursday and suddenly we have singularity. It will be a period of time. And whether that's AGI, ASI, or singularity, I think it's a period of time. It's an evolution over a stretch of time horizon. And it feels to me like that we are already there. We have so many AI advancements, so many things happening at the same time. No single individual can keep up. And it feels like we're already there in terms of momentum of innovation. Now, when we talk about BCI, I think the intention with BCI is how do you improve your upload time from thumbs to brain interface directly. So you can interface with a computer at computer speeds or near computer speeds, upload, download. It's kind of like Neo in the Matrix, plugging into a computer system and suddenly going, now I know Kung Fu. This is a little bit of science fiction, and we are many years away from it. However, BCI is already real, and there are some amazing case examples of where a paralyzed person was able to walk again with BCI, a blind person was able to see again, somebody with speech impairment was able to speak using BCI, etc. So there's some amazing examples already. And I think that it's an augmentation. It's a journey of augmentation for humanity.
Okay. And if you want me to continue, I can do that, Dan. So if we left the future, even though it's fairly soon, 4, 5, 10 years, it's still future, and look at where we are today. I posted a couple of days ago about the first robotic marathon in Beijing, I believe.
Yes.
There were 21 robots. They're all Chinese robots. So this was a single country marathon. Only 4 or 5 actually finished. Some made it a couple of feet. Others went dead. And to some extent, we might say this is robotics, in reality today at this level of trying to mimic a human event. But the fact that they were able to get 4 or 5 over the finish line, no matter how long they took, is quite an achievement, I think. Now, of course, in my post, I suggested that this be transformed into a real Olympics, and that this be a parallel event at the Los Angeles Olympics coming up in a few years. And that would be a wonderful thing to see, where we have robots from around the world competing against each other. Is that a realistic possibility? Maybe not in a year or two, but is that something we might begin to see?
Yeah, it is such an interesting idea, right? And by the way, I think it is a half marathon and 20
That's right.
odd humanoid robots. Just to be clear for folks who may not know that event, you had humanoid robots which have hands, legs,
Right.
something like a face, etc.
Right.
And they're running as opposed to wheels and motion,
Right.
or a drone that's flying through the air. This is a running robot, and 6 of them completed the race, and I think the winning robot was timed 2 hour 45 minutes, something like this.
Yeah, 240.
2 hours 40
24,
minutes. 2:40:24.
which is actually a pretty good time.
It
It is
is.
I don't know
exactly
if I could make that time.
exactly that was my reaction. That I'm a runner. I look at that and go, wow, really interesting, because 6 robots actually completed a half marathon, and they're faster than many human beings. And I see this as a good test of kind of dexterity, battery life, all of those things, and these will learn from failure as well. I think you could definitely have a parallel robot Olympics, Fran. I, for one, would watch it. It reminds me of the robot wars from the past. I don't know if you remember that show where you had these robots competing against each other. Really interesting idea. But where this is valuable is evolution of battery technology,
Mhm.
which is a major roadblock when it comes to robotics. Ability to interact in the real world with real world physics has been a challenge for robots. So that again becomes important. Computer vision, so real to sim translation, reality to simulation translation, and those kind of things, that becomes valuable insight. And we know that anything that's a repeated pattern, once the machine gets hold of it, the machine beats a human being. It's happened with chess, it's happened with Go, it will happen with marathon running as well.
Well, it's been
However,
that way. It's been that way with Watts and IBM's thing for years.
yes. So my only question though is that if you have right now the top chess engines are, let's say, AlphaGo, Leela Chess, and Stockfish. But no one's tuning into a match between Stockfish and AlphaGo. So I don't know. Beyond the geeks like me, I don't know who's interested in robot versus robot running.
Interesting.
So I want to get to a couple of pre-submitted viewer questions. This one actually makes me chuckle, and it has to do something with an experience I had this week. And it's from May. Hey, May. You say that AI is like having 1,000 PhDs in your pocket, and yet it still hallucinates. Is that because humans are still figuring out how to write good prompts? What do you think?
Yeah, interesting, right? So that question comes from a very uniquely human place where we are okay with human beings hallucinating, but not AI models hallucinating, right? Because how often do you get things wrong? Very frequently. And yet,
Mm-hmm.
when an AI model gets things wrong, you're like, hey, this AI model can't spell the word strawberry or something like this. Um, I think one of the fundamental gaps is how people think about AI output. So when we put in a prompt, we think the AI understands, and based on our understanding, it's giving you a response. AI is just doing math.
Mm-hmm.
It's translating your words into numbers, into vectors, and vice versa. That's the T in transformer, and it's giving you an output. And that output is probabilistic. It's not deterministic. It's not like a calculator where you say 2 plus 2 is always 4. The AI model is saying 2 plus 2 is maybe 3.97, and it's making a guess. Sometimes that guess is close to what you expect as output, sometimes not. And where this gets dangerous is when you don't know what to expect as an output. So that's where this gets dangerous. So I see hallucination as a power of AI as opposed to being a bug feature, not a bug, as they say, and use it with a degree of caution.
Okay, so it becomes part of our creative experimentation when
Yes.
things become interesting and unexpected.
Yes. And there is a parallel evolution of architectures, right? Things like fine tuning, contextual grounding, retrieval augmented generation, which reduce the hallucination element, where expert systems become more and more reliable as we go forwards.
So I want to get to my 2 a.m. in the morning brainstorming using ChatGPT and the DALL-E tool, where I said to it, okay, and I'm tired, and I'm like, render me an illustration, a graphic illustration of a headhunter on a Zoom call with a female candidate. And this is what it came up with. It took me literally, it rendered a Hivera warrior, an actual headhunter, render an image of a headhunter and an executive job candidate on a Zoom call. And this is what it came up with. And I just laughed. I laughed out loud so loud my wife woke up and said, "What's going on?"
So so I'm a techno optimist, Dan and Fran, as you know. I look at this image and go, well done, because at least half of it is amazing. Executive job candidate, and this time it's a female,
Yeah.
which is very interesting. A woman job candidate as opposed to having some kind of AI bias. So this is, in my view, part of the job well done. And the left side of it could be for a number of reasons. Like I said, these outputs are probabilistic, and so long as we use it with a degree of caution.
Right. And this is a Hivera warrior
Yes.
of your. Okay. Let me get to Kevin's question. Kevin, hey, Kevin. It won't be long before LinkedIn and Copilot merge their capabilities to drive talent recruitment. I think that's a metaphysical certitude, if you will. How can human recruiters respond in such a way that they are not then rendered obsolete? So I think it's no accident that Copilot is starting to creep into a lot of LinkedIn interactions, but it makes perfect sense that it's going to be merged or integrated with the LinkedIn platform for recruitment, LinkedIn recruitment. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, very interesting. And this is part of the rewiring process of all workflows, I would say.
Mm.
So there are already cases where, I don't know if you've seen this video, by the way, hilarious, where you have a headhunter on a Zoom call and you have a candidate on the other side.
Yeah.
And anytime there's a question, the candidate's kind of looking this way because this person has some kind of AI running and every question is being answered by the AI.
Oh gosh.
So, like, I look at that and go, this is the process is the problem. It's not the fact that the candidate is using AI. Because if I have access to AI when I'm working, why shouldn't I have access to AI when I'm doing the interview? I think there's just it's a lack of creativity in the process. I fully appreciate that at scale, it's challenging to change all of these things. One amazing example, by the way, is how Adecco has used Agent Force to improve candidate experience through the recruitment process, where they are actually used Salesforce Agent Force to reach millions of candidates, change the interview process to be more personalized, and the down selection process to be, very, very well crafted. So there's some really good examples, but I view this as let's change the recruitment process. There might be some elements where AI could help you, and there are some elements where you really want the human connection aspect to shine through. And I would rather have the human focus on that than the routine process that I'm sure all recruitment teams are struggling with every day.
Fran, before we get to you, I want to get to Greg's comment. He says everyone thinks and says AI inside Word or AI inside Salesforce, etc. And he says no, it's the other way around. Recruitment is in your AI, sales management is in your AI, email, Word, calendar, et al. What are your thoughts, Ram?
Yeah, I think Greg makes a good point that this is literally the way companies are thinking about this is AI is a product feature, or it's a sixth bullet point, like Mark Andreessen has said, where you have 5 standard strategies, and hey, we forgot about that AI things. Let's slap it on AI washing. Whereas you probably need to think about this more fundamentally. So I agree with what Greg's saying there.
Fran?
Thanks, Dan. Ram, there's in the press, at least, we hear a lot of noise about the global battle between the West and China. And to some extent, I think this, might be driven by the fact that the tech firms, at least in the West, want to keep the money pouring in. and they talk about this battle to win the, this ongoing thing where we must be first with something. So we beat China in some area so that we will be the dominant player for the rest of all time. I mean, that's sort of the message that's being transmitted. And yet, I was thinking last night about the movie, I think it's 2012.
Oh, yeah.
Where the tectonic plates of the planet realign and the planet basically goes underwater. And in order to save humanity, they had to build 3 ship arcs someplace in a year. And of course, where do they build that? The only place that could get it done is China.
Yeah.
We've seen the Chinese, with respect to AI, make a lot of innovative advancements, leveraging all of their skill and creativity into what was already in process. But it was designed, just a few months ago before DeepSeek. It was going to be billions or trillions of dollars, data centers everywhere. It was going to be all electricity to AI. And all of a sudden, the Chinese figured out a better way to see a cheaper way to do it, to get almost to the same level. And I think my sense is in just general reading is that AI is permeating into the culture of real people in China much more quickly than it is here. Here it seems to be an afterthought, something that is new, and maybe it's going to fit in someplace. But in China, it seems to be part of everyday life already. Going back to the question of this battle, which has a 12-month fuse, is that real, or is that merely to drive investment and funding into the tech sphere of the West?
So here's how I think about this, Fran. Firstly, not a battle, but innovation ground. So not a battleground, innovation ground.
Okay.
And I welcome the incredible innovation coming out of any region. So DeepSeek, with its innovation, when it came out, I had published this piece titled "Necessity is the Mother of Invention," and there's been at that point there was lack of clarity on how DeepSeek was trained, how many GPUs, what kind of technology was used, what kind of data was used, costs involved, and that remains true even as of now. We don't know exactly how these models are being built in China, assuming it is on older hardware with lesser data, etc. And they've made some of their ideas public and open source, which can be used. So I see it as a process of evolution and innovation. Does any single company or entity or sovereign body or government need to be number one on this topic? I don't think so. It's a very vast and diverse field, AI is, and if you just follow the patents in this space, you can see what types of patents are being applied for in China versus the US or other places, and they're very different. The focus areas are very different. So I don't see it as a challenge. I mentioned chess as an analogy, and we had AlphaGo and Leela Chess come up as competing engines to Stockfish, which was a dominant engine at one point of time. Number one was Stockfish. Stockfish used the algorithmic way of doing it, whereas Leela Chess and AlphaGo, etc., brought neural networks in. Stockfish did not change for a while, became number two, number three. Then Stockfish evolved, used neural networks in combination with what they were doing, became number one again. So this process of back and forth will continue. And I think it's great. We have some innovation coming in from all over the world, pushes the boundaries on what's possible.
Okay, so we're not going to see a winner or a loser in 12, 18 months. This is going to go on for quite a while. And the leadership will probably float based on innovation and creativity that emerges.
Yeah, I would say that there is a winner. The winner is the consumer and the enterprise, because the cost per dollar or the value per dollar of compute, if you will, is going upwards.
Okay, I have one more question. I think we definitely want to ask before the show's over. I realize we're still have quite a bit of time, but this is I have a question on your book, The Conscious Machine, and part of this actually was contributed by Chris Muller, who we've seen, who's on the call.
Yes.
But in case he was unable to ask the question, I got a question from him, and he said, with all the hype surrounding AI now, what inspired you to write that book, The Conscious Machine? Was there a point or a moment that made you say, I need to put this out to the world?
Yeah, great question, and thank you to Chris, Moeller. For those who don't know, please follow Chris on LinkedIn and other social platforms. He's doing an incredible job with innovation, and is always open with sharing ideas. So thank you, Chris, for everything that you do. On the book, the reason I wrote this was there was even 18 months back, there was already talk about AI and AI approaching certain limits, the rate of progress being very quick, and the hyper focus that we as a entity, as a species, have on this narrow aspect of humanity, which is intelligence, whereas humans are actually much broader than that. And I also knew that this is not just AI, it's robotics, it's BCI, Fran, to your earlier question. It's also things like quantum, it's also things like virtual reality, augmented reality. And these things were shaping not just our world of work, they are reshaping our identity. They're reshaping meaning and purpose. They're reshaping why we exist. And I felt compelled, honestly, to write what I did because we need to introspect much more. And to Mark's earlier question of wisdom, we will need to hold the wisdom much dearer to us as a species as we go forward. AI might outcompete us on memory, pattern recognition, even creativity and empathy. But will it be able to outcompete us on the wisdom? That remains to be seen. And maybe that's humanity's last domain. And we need to magnify that.
So is this going to be included in your new book, which is upcoming?
Yeah, the new book, Fran, that I'm writing is all about exponential thinking and exponential mind. And it is actually prompted by Peter Diamandis of Singularity University fame. On Abundance 360 stage couple of years back, he mentioned this example, brilliant example. If you took 30 linear steps, you're about 30 feet away. If you took 30 exponential steps, step 1, 1 foot, step 2, 2 feet, step 3, 4 feet, 8 feet, 16 feet, 32 feet, how far are you at the end of 30 exponential steps? And I would say that 99.9% of humanity gets this wrong because at the end of 30 exponential steps, we are 26 times around the earth. We have circumnavigated the earth 26 times. This is the power of the exponential. And we are, to quote ARK Invest's recent paper, we are in the second half of the chessboard. We are in the second half of that exponential curve. And we are about to see these technologies converge and expand exponentially. So my question is, are we still thinking linearly in an exponential world? And can you teach exponential? Can you think exponential? And how are those who are using this exponential to their benefit doing it? And that's kind of what I explored in the next book.
Interesting.
So I want to get you two guys on this summer when I hope to do a pre-recorded show, and sort of like Playboy After Dark or whatever, where you just sort of let your hair down, because I do want to get into all of this, Ram. I think it's a topic I haven't heard discussed, and in particular around faith and about belief, in that you're probably the first person I know of who is venturing into how AI will impact spirituality and all of this. So folks, we're going to try to make this happen over the summer months, where we'll get Fran and Ram to help us deep dive into that. I'm wondering if I can get to a couple more questions. We're going to pivot to business now. This is ripped out of today's headlines about whether or not Google is going to be broken up into bits. And if Google is forced to break up, could you envision OpenAI making a play for Chrome to merge it with ChatGPT?
Yes. I mean, it's fairly simple, right? We are in a battle of distribution right now. If there's a battle, then that's the battle. And Chrome will allow OpenAI to reach every Chrome user. So why wouldn't they? So
And what
therefore,
that,
yes.
and what does that do to the idea of search? Does search become something different?
I think search is already different. So if we look at things like Perplexity or Google's deep research or those kind of technologies, they are shifting us away from the 10 blue links idea. They're shifting us towards much more curated, personalized insight. And I think we're already there. Search is already different now. It's a question of inventing the new business model surrounding curated search results.
And what happens to all other search engines out there? Do they become somewhat integrated? I recognize Chrome is the big daddy-o, but do they follow into marriages with AI, agentic AI platforms, if you will?
Yeah, I think it'll become table stakes, just as we have. I mean, Bing will probably integrate with what we have through Microsoft, and similarly with Google, with Gemini, and or if the breakup actually happens, then you have a buyer's race for Chrome.
Wow. So Gemma knows that I live in the land of 1,000 data centers. In my backyard, I mean, in my immediate backyard, in my immediate front yard, I have 5 major Iron Mountain data centers under construction. And so Gemma says AI needs lots of data centers and electrical load to run. What is the state of data center capacity? And is there enough load to power the kinds of sophisticated AI apps that people want?
Yeah, this is not. There's no simple answer to this one. There will be, like, if we think about the evolution of computers, if we look at the analogy there, at some point of time we had UNIVAC, building-sized computer. Before that, vacuum tube-based computers. They were very large. Uh, any mobile phone today has more compute power than that. So it's the size of technology shrinks over time. But then you have other technologies that are evolving that require more compute. So I think there'll be a back and forth here. Um, Whether or no AI requires all of that data center space and what happens with future compute requirements, question mark, and there might be evolution there. We are seeing already a little bit of change from Microsoft and Amazon and others. At the same time, data centers are not just about AI. It's about cloud, it's hosting, it's hypercloud, it's scaling, all of those things.
Mhm.
And that is actually a large part of the demand. If you look at McKinsey projections on this topic, you will see that Gen AI, which is a very small sliver of a slice of the data center demand. So I think there's sufficient demand there. Electricity and uh, the ability to power that's where I think we will encounter a challenge. Chips likely we'll solve for the data center, build out all of those things, but electricity probably a bigger challenge area.
You know, before I really went full on into the future of work 5, 6, 7 years ago, I was heavily aligned with people in the clean energy space. And back then, the idea of returning to nuclear power was anathema. And I think now some of them are looking at it and saying, what choice do we have? We have to figure out a way to bring those reactors back online to run some of the AI, in particular, the data center platforms out there. You agree with that?
New nuclear technology, yes. And we have much safer, much more evolved nuclear technology now than some of the older previous generation plants. Or these plants are actually 1950s, 60s, 70s type frame construction.
Mhm.
It's 5 decades hence, and we have much more reliable, safe nuclear technology. So I'm all for pushing that frontier.
Why is it Microsoft who is trying to get 3 Mile Island back in sync?
Yes.
Why would they do that? That's an ancient technology, really.
I think they'll upgrade those systems is my sense. It's just the base infrastructure.
Okay. Just, I know we're short on time here, but just a quick question. I was reading recently some Eric Schmidt sayings, and Eric seems to be almost a fatalistic kind of guy. I don't know how to describe it otherwise, but he leaps into the future, which we still don't, have a clear vision on, particularly with respect to AGI. When the machines are, more sophisticated, more knowledgeable than humans. And then he also uses, last time I saw this, ASI, artificial superintelligence, where that intelligence exceeds all of the knowledge of all humans who are alive. I guess I think that's how it was described. And he says that this is a time for when machines are going to say no to us and begin to go off on their own. I mean, is that a true vision based on what we know today? Initially, when we were, a year and a half ago, everybody was concerned about controls on AI. How, we don't want to let the genie out of the box. We're going to wind up being dead. Is that still the case in your mind? And have we made any progress with respect to controlling these fatalistic potential outcomes?
Yeah, there's a number called P doom, probability of doom. And if you look at the expert consensus on that, that number is going downwards, not upwards. Some people have swayed in either direction. Elon Musk's number has changed over time, and some of these other folks have changed over time as well. So I think as we have more insight and knowledge on how these AI systems will evolve, how they'll get distributed, etc., that number changes. So just in terms of definitions, one thing I'd say is that there is no clear agreement on what is AGI.
Mhm.
So we human beings are moving the goalposts. We're saying if this happens, it's AGI, and you know what already happened. Okay, that's not AGI. Now this is AGI. This is also okay. Now this is AGI. So we keep moving the goalposts.
Okay.
One of the ideas was Turing test, and large language models have already surpassed the Turing test. And we've barely noticed, right? So it's gone past and we've barely noticed. Are the AI models more intelligent on topics than we are? I mean, very clearly, the AI models know much more than any one of us on a very broad range of topics. And they may not know certain things, but very broad range of topics, they know a lot. So the AGI definition is a question mark. And then ASI is kind of next stage where, Fran, to your point, it's artificial intelligence that's smarter than all human beings that are living or have lived combined. Now, what happens then is an unknown. This goes into that singularity zone. Um, I maybe it's like the movie Her and the ending of the movie Her, where the AI is like, I'm done with human beings and I'm leaving the planet. Maybe that's what happens. But there's an assumption there that AI, ASI, AGI, by whatever name called, is a singular entity, and there's one AI.
Mhm.
But that's not the case.
Right.
Already, that's not the case. You have so many different platforms, so many different forms of artificial intelligence just in the large language model space, and even language models. You have small language models, large language. So there's so much variety. So I don't see that as a real risk.
So that's a potential, like the Greek gods, the war of the gods in Greece, where the gods are fighting each other, but they're sort of way above where we are.
Gentlemen, we've run out of time, which is so sad because, with Ram, we could go hours, and you are a phenomenal guest, Ram, and we look forward to bringing you back, hopefully this summer and again this fall to continue our conversations. Before we get to our burning question, I'm wondering if you could point our viewers and listeners to where they can engage with you on social media and perhaps read up on your thought leadership.
Yeah, I'm available on LinkedIn, and happy to connect there, taking all invites, like I said last time also.
Okay, we're at the point where we're gonna revisit your answer to the question that we ask all our guests. So without further ado, I'm going to give you the progression. Here we go. Well, gentlemen, we've come to the final question, which is, what's your work fit? And so, Ram, I want to ask you, what attribute, condition, experience, place, or state of mind makes work that you do a wonderful part of your day, doing many wonderful and meaningful things, and not the all-consuming time suck of a day? What's your work fit?
Freedom.
Freedom. Explain.
So I've worked with JLL since 2010, right? And one of the reasons is JLL and other organizations that I've worked for, enjoyed working for, allow you freedom, autonomy to do whatever it is that you want to do. So JLL's tagline a few years back was achieve ambitions. And this is, I firmly believe in that idea of providing people with a platform, get out of their way, allow them to do their best work, and you'll see them prosper. So from my perspective, freedom, autonomy, those are critical.
So what's changed, Ram? Anything?
Nothing has changed, but I would provide a slightly different response in the sense that I believe, like the world that we live in right now, we need tremendous optimism, and optimism in my view is a superpower. I just want to differentiate. I'm not talking about delusional belief. I'm saying optimism is a strategic leadership initiative, and optimists change the world. And if for nothing else, just know that optimists live 15% longer. So for selfish reasons, be optimistic.
So freedom, optimism. Does that change? Do you add anything to that equation for your work fit?
I would add one piece, which is be bold. And right now, we have, like I said, the power of 1,000 PhDs in our pocket. If not now, then when? And if not you, then who? Just be bold, execute, and see a brighter way. Let me quote our JLL tagline there.
Well, Ram, this has been absolutely brilliant. We thank you so much for joining us again. Every time you're on is like being in a classroom, and we can't thank you enough. We'll bring you back soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. Thanks, Dan, Fran.
Great to be with you, Ram.
Thank you.